If hell had a waiting room, it would look exactly like my wedding day. I just didn't know it at the time. Karen stood there in her white dress, smiling at me like I was the center of her world. But beneath that radiant smile lay a calculated deception, a secret that would shatter everything I believed in. If I had known what was coming, I would have turned around and walked straight out of that church. But I didn't. I smiled back, said my vows, and sealed my fate. Because I wasn't marrying a woman. I was signing a contract with the devil. Karen didn't rush me into love. She eased me into it like boiling a frog. She made me feel like I had found my person, someone who truly understood me. It was in the little things. The way she always knew what to say when I had a bad day. How she made me feel like the most important man in the world. She made me feel safe. And when she mentioned marriage, it didn't even seem like a question. "Why wait?" she'd say, curling up against me on the couch. "When you know, you know." And I thought I knew. I thought I was lucky. But I wasn't lucky. I was prey. The wedding was beautiful. Perfect, even. Karen took care of everything, brushing away any concerns I had. "Just relax," she said. "I've got it all handled." She even handled the legal paperwork. "We just need to sign a few things," she told me one night, sliding documents across the table. "Standard stuff, property, finances, blah blah, just formalities." I was so in love, so blind, that I didn't even question it. I signed. And with that one stroke of ink, I gave her everything. In that instant, the weight of my fate pressed down like a crushing avalanche, sealing my undoing before I even realized it. It started small. Karen took charge of the bills, the HOA meetings, the little details of our life together. Then one day, I noticed my name wasn't on our bank account anymore. The next week, my calls about mortgage payments were redirected. And then, the final blow. I came home late one night to find the locks changed. That altered lock was more than metal. It was a brutal symbol that my sanctuary had been forcefully invaded. Confused, I knocked. Called Karen's phone. Nothing. Then the porch light flicked on, and the door opened just a crack. Karen stood there, arms crossed, an amused smirk on her face. "What's going on?" I asked, my stomach twisting. My heart pounded as I battled the bitter realization that the woman I loved had become the architect of my undoing. She tilted her head. "Oh, sweetheart," she purred. "Didn't you read what you signed?" I froze. Karen's smirk widened. "This isn't your house anymore," she whispered. "It's mine." And then she shut the door in my face. I stood there staring at the closed door. My door. The one I had unlocked 1,000 times without thinking. But now it was a barrier. Between me and my home. Between me and everything I had worked for. Between me and the woman who had promised to love me. Only to rob me blind. My hands curled into fists as I pounded on the door. "Karen!" My voice cracked with disbelief. "Open the damn door!" Nothing. Then, after what felt like forever, I heard the deadbolt slide back. The door creaked open just an inch, just enough for Karen's perfectly manicured fingers to rest against the frame. She looked at me like I was pitiful, like I was some pathetic stranger. "Why are you making a scene?" She sighed, as if I were the one being unreasonable. I took a step forward, but she didn't budge. "Karen, stop playing games. Let me in." She arched her brow. "Let you in?" A slow, wicked smile spread across her lips. "Oh, sweetheart, you don't live here anymore." The words hit like a sledgehammer to the chest. I blinked. "What the hell are you talking about?" Karen sighed dramatically, as if she were explaining something obvious to a child. "It's my house now. You signed the paperwork, remember?" I shook my head, heart pounding. "Number, that's not possible. My name was on the deed," she finished for me. Past tense. She tilted her head, faking sympathy. But don't feel bad. You didn't even read what you signed. That's on you, babe. My blood ran cold. I had signed everything over to her. The house, the bank accounts, everything. Karen let out a dramatic yawn. Look, I'd love to keep chatting, but I've got a bath waiting. She reached for the door. Good luck out there. I shoved my foot in the gap before she could close it. Karen, I growled, my voice dangerously low. You can't do this. For the first time, she dropped the act. The smile faded. And in its place, pure, unfiltered cruelty. She leaned in, her voice barely a whisper. Oh, but I already did. Then, without another word, she slammed the door shut, right in my face. And just like that, I was homeless. I stood there, staring at the door that was once mine. I wanted to believe this was a nightmare, that I would wake up any second in my bed, next to the woman I thought I married. But the cold night air, the weight in my chest, the rage boiling in my blood, they were all real. Karen had planned this, every step, and like a fool, I had walked right into her trap. I pulled out my phone, hands shaking, and called her. The first time, it rang once before sending me to voicemail. The second time, straight to voicemail. She had blocked me. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to think. I had rights. There had to be a way to fight this, a way to fix this. My mind raced. Did I have a copy of the deed, the paperwork I signed? Number Karen had handled everything. I clenched my jaw. I needed answers. If she wouldn't open the door, I'd find another way. So I did the only thing I could. I got in my car and drove, straight to my lawyer's office. It was past midnight, but I didn't care. I sat outside in my car, refreshing my phone, waiting for the clock to hit morning. When the sun finally rose, I was in that office the second they unlocked the door. My lawyer, Mr. Jensen, was an older man who had handled some minor legal matters for me before. But when I explained what had happened, even he looked stunned. She took everything? He repeated. I nodded stiffly. He sighed, rubbing his temples. All right, first things first. We need to pull the property records and see whose name is actually on the deed. I swallowed hard, already knowing the answer. 15 minutes later, Jensen sat back in his chair, shaking his head. Well, he said slowly, she wasn't lying. You don't own that house anymore. I gripped the arms of my chair. How the hell did this happen? Jensen exhaled. Did she ever ask you to sign anything related to the house? My stomach dropped. The paperwork, the ones I didn't read. I could already hear Karen's voice in my head. Just standard marriage stuff. I felt sick. Jensen adjusted his glasses. We might be able to challenge this, but it's going to be an uphill battle. I ran a hand down my face. An uphill battle. Karen had planned this too well. She had covered every angle, every loophole. And now she was sitting in my house, living my life, while I was the one sitting here, trying to figure out how to undo the biggest mistake of my life. But I wasn't giving up. If Karen thought she had won, she was dead wrong. A surge of fierce resolve ignited within me. I was ready to dismantle every lie and reclaim the life that was stolen. Because if she wanted a war, she was about to get one. Karen thought she had played the perfect con. She thought I would slink away quietly, tail between my legs. That I would be too shocked, too humiliated, too broken to fight back. She didn't know me at all. By the time I left my lawyer's office, I had a plan. Step 1, make her uncomfortable. I drove straight back to the house. My house. This time, I didn't knock. I didn't plead. I just stood in the driveway, arms crossed, and waited. It took less than 10 minutes before the front door swung open. Karen stepped out in a silk robe, holding a steaming cup of coffee, looking annoyed that I was still breathing. Are you seriously still here? She scoffed. I didn't move. You stole my house. She took a slow sip of coffee, completely unfazed. No, babe, you gave it to me. Rage bubbled in my chest, but I kept my voice even. You're a fraud. You tricked me into signing those papers. Karen laughed. Actually, I laughed. Oh, sweetheart, she cooed. That's not fraud. That's just being smarter than you. I took a step forward, and for the first time, I saw it. The flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. She expected me to be weak, broken. Instead, I was calm. Too calm. And that scared her. She hit it quickly, flashing that smug smile. You really should leave. I wouldn't want to have to call the cops on my own husband. I smiled right back. Go ahead. Karen's brows furrowed slightly. She wasn't expecting that. I'll tell them everything, I said. And while we're at it, maybe I should start talking to the neighbors too. I wonder how they'd feel about a scammer living in their community. For the first time, Karen hesitated. She loved appearances, loved control, and I had just cracked it. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. Karen thought she was untouchable, that she had won. But every scam artist, no matter how good, always makes a mistake. And Karen? She had just made hers. After our little showdown in the driveway, she went back inside, slamming the door like a spoiled child. But I saw it in her eyes, that flicker of doubt. She was nervous. Good. Now, I just had to push her further. I started with the HOA. Karen loved playing queen of the neighborhood. The HOA was her kingdom, and she ruled it with an iron fist. If there was anything even slightly out of order, she was the first to file a complaint. Overgrown hedges? Violation. A car parked slightly off the curb? Fine. So imagine my delight when I did some digging and found a little secret she probably didn't want getting out. Karen had been embezzling from the HOA. Not a lot, just little things. Overcharging for community improvements, pocketing extra money from fines. Nothing huge, but definitely enough to get her kicked off the board. I smirked to myself. Checkmate, Karen. If this story hit home, please hit like. Leave a comment with your thoughts, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more true stories of justice. The next morning, I made my move. I walked straight into the HOA office, where Karen loved to hold her little meetings, and dropped a neatly organized folder onto the president's desk. The folder, heavy with irrefutable evidence, landed with a thud that echoed my silent promise of retribution. Interesting reading material, I said, flashing a polite smile. The president, Mrs. Reynolds, frowned as she flipped through the pages. With each document, her expression darkened. I crossed my arms. I figured you'd want to know that your beloved treasurer has been helping herself to community funds. Mrs. Reynolds looked up, stunned. Are you certain about this? I leaned forward. Positive. Silence. Then, without another word, she picked up her phone and dialed. Karen, she said when the line connected, we need to talk. That evening, I drove past my house just in time to see Karen storming out, her face twisted in fury. She was clutching her phone so tightly I thought she might crush it. She stopped dead when she saw me, and for a brief moment, I thought she might actually throw something at my head. Instead, she stalked toward me, her heels clicking against the pavement. You think you're clever? She hissed. I smiled. I don't think... I know. Her jaw clenched. I don't know what you think you're doing, but it won't work. I still own this house. I still control everything. I took a slow step closer, lowering my voice. Not for long. Karen faltered, just for a second. And in that second, I knew. She was starting to crack. This wasn't over. It was just beginning. Karen had spent years building her perfect little empire. The house, the HOA, the carefully curated image of a woman in control. But all it took was one small crack for everything to start crumbling. And I had just put the first one there. The day after I exposed Karen's dirty little secret to the HOA, I made sure to stay close. I wanted to see how she'd react. By mid-afternoon, my patience paid off. Karen came storming out of the community clubhouse, her face red with barely contained rage. Her perfect posture? Gone. Her smug expression? Shattered. She looked rattled. I leaned against my car, arms crossed, waiting. When she finally spotted me, she froze. Her hands clenched into fists at her sides, and for a moment, I thought she might scream. Instead, she forced a smile, a tight, unnatural thing stretched across her face. She marched over, stopping just inches away from me. "You think this is funny?" she hissed. I tilted my head. "I think it's justice." Karen let out a sharp laugh, shaking her head. "You're pathetic," she spat. "Digging through my business like some bitter little ex. What, did you think getting me kicked off the HOA board would make me give the house back?" I didn't react. I just watched her. Because for the first time since this started, Karen was panicking. She wouldn't have confronted me if she wasn't, and that meant I had finally put her on the defensive. I smiled. "No, Karen," I said, voice calm. "I just wanted to remind you that I'm not going anywhere." Her nostrils flared. "You are so—" I cut her off. "You played your game," I said. "Now I'm playing mine." Something in her expression shifted. For a split second, I saw something flicker behind her eyes, something dangerous. Then, just as quickly, it was gone. Karen let out a long breath, rolling her shoulders back. Then she smirked. "Oh, sweetheart," she purred. "You really think you can beat me?" I held her gaze, steady, unmoving. "Yes," I said simply. Her smirk faltered. I didn't give her time to recover. I stepped around her, heading for my car. But before I got in, I turned back just once. "Enjoy the house while you can, Karen," I called over my shoulder. Then I drove off. Because the first crack in her kingdom had been made. And now, I was going to bring the whole damn thing down. Karen was losing control. I could see it in the way her smile didn't quite reach her eyes, in the way she kept checking over her shoulder, expecting another hit to come. And she was right to be paranoid, because I wasn't done. I wanted her to feel what it was like to have everything ripped away. A few days after the HOA fallout, I got a call from my lawyer, Jensen. "I've been digging," he said, "and I found something interesting." I straightened in my seat. "What kind of interesting thing?" "The fraudulent deed transfer? Turns out Karen had help." I felt my stomach twist. "Help?" Jensen sighed. "A notary who didn't ask too many questions. A witness signature that's questionable, to say the least. In short, the transfer wasn't exactly legal." I gripped my phone tighter. "So we can fight it." "Oh, we're not just fighting it," Jensen said, a smile in his voice. "We're going to rip it apart." Hope surged in my chest for the first time in weeks. This was it. The first real step to taking back my life. I didn't waste time. I went straight back to my house, ready to deliver the news. Karen was outside, watering the perfectly trimmed hedges as if she didn't have a care in the world. I pulled up and stepped out, watching as she stiffened. She turned, forcing a smirk. "Still lurking, huh?" I smiled back. "Oh, just enjoying the view. While it lasts." Her smirk faltered. "What the hell does that mean?" I pulled a folded piece of paper from my pocket and held it up. "Hope you didn't get too comfortable," I said. "Because this house? It was never legally yours." Her face dropped. And for the first time since this started, Karen had no words. I had finally done it. I had shaken Karen. And that meant one thing. She was going to strike back. Hard. I should have expected it. I should have been prepared. But I wasn't. That night, I woke up to the sound of my phone buzzing. Groggy, I reached for it, blinking at the screen. An unknown number. I frowned but answered. "Hello?" A deep voice chuckled. "You really pissed off the wrong woman, man." My blood ran cold. "Who is this?" I demanded, sitting up. Click. The call ended. My heart pounded. I looked around my small motel room, every shadow suddenly too dark, too deep. Karen wasn't just playing dirty anymore. She was escalating. And if I wasn't careful, I wouldn't just lose my house. I might lose everything. I didn't sleep that night. The moment that call ended, I knew. Karen had just changed the rules. This wasn't just about a house anymore. This was about power, control, revenge. And Karen? She was the type to burn the whole world down before admitting she lost. By morning, I was running on nothing but coffee and adrenaline. I drove straight to Jensen's office, still gripping my phone like it might ring again at any second. Jensen took one look at me and frowned. "You look like hell." I dropped into the chair across from him. "I got a call last night, no number, just some guy telling me I pissed off the wrong woman." Jensen's frown deepened. "You think Karen's behind it?" I let out a bitter laugh. "Who else?" He exhaled, rubbing his jaw. "This is bad." "No kidding." Jensen steepled his fingers. "We need to move faster. The fraudulent deed is a good angle, but Karen's not going down without a fight. We have to hit her with everything." I nodded. "What's the next step?" Jensen flipped through a file. "We filed an official lawsuit. Demand a full investigation into the fraud. If we can prove she knowingly forged or manipulated the deed transfer, not only do you get the house back, she could face criminal charges." That was the first thing that made me feel remotely better. Karen had spent her life crafting this perfect image. But an investigation? A lawsuit? A possible criminal record? That would ruin her. And maybe, just maybe, that's exactly what she deserved. I left Jensen's office with renewed focus. But as I pulled into the parking lot of my motel, something felt off. It took me a second to realize what it was. The door to my room, the one I had locked before I left, was slightly open. My heart slammed against my ribs. I parked, moving slowly, carefully, scanning the lot for anyone watching. Nothing. I stepped out, inching toward the door, pushed it open, and froze. The room had been trashed. My mattress was flipped, my clothes scattered. My suitcase had been ripped open, its contents dumped across the floor. The lamp was shattered. My laptop, gone. And then I saw it. A single piece of paper sitting neatly on the nightstand. Its stark message, scrawled in bold black ink, sliced through the chaos like a chilling decree, warning of violence yet to come. With 4 words, written in bold black ink. "Walk away. Or else." I clenched my fists. Karen had just made a huge mistake. She thought this would scare me. She thought this would make me run. But all she had done, it makes me more determined than ever to take her down. Karen wanted me to run. She wanted me to be afraid. And I'll be honest, when I saw my trashed hotel room and that threatening note, a part of me was. But fear and rage? They make a dangerous combination. And Karen had just made the biggest mistake of her life. Because I wasn't backing down. I didn't touch anything. I pulled out my phone and took photos of everything. Every overturned drawer, every ripped piece of clothing, every little sign that someone had invaded my space. Then I called Jensen. "I need a favor," I said the moment he picked up. "I need you to get me surveillance footage from the motel parking lot." Jensen cursed under his breath. "What the hell happened?" "Somebody broke into my room," I said. "Left me a nice little warning." Silence. Then, "Do you think it was Karen?" I let out a cold laugh. "Who else?" Jensen exhaled. "All right, I'll make some calls. In the meantime, you need to file a police report." I hesitated. Jensen picked up on it immediately. Don't tell me you're thinking of handling this yourself. I'm thinking, I said slowly, that Karen expects me to go to the police. She wants me to waste my time. She knows this is just vague enough that they won't do anything. Jensen sighed. You're not wrong. I rubbed a hand over my face. I just need that footage. I'll get it. While I waited, I drove back to my house. Karen was outside, pretending to water the lawn again, but the second she saw me, her grip on the hose tightened. I walked right up to the edge of the property and smiled. You had someone break into my room? Her expression didn't change. I have no idea what you're talking about. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. Listen to me, Karen. You think you're playing a game, but you don't understand. I'm not playing anymore. Every word dripped with finality, and for a heartbeat, the air between us crackled with the promise of reckoning. Her lips curled. Oh, sweetheart, you can't scare me. I leaned in, just enough for her to feel it. I'm not trying to scare you, I whispered. I'm warning you. Her eyes flickered, just for a second. A crack. She was afraid. Good. I straightened, turning to leave. But before I did, I glanced back. Enjoy the house while you can, I said, because I'm about to take back everything you stole. Then I walked away. And behind me? For the first time ever, Karen didn't have a single word to say. Karen thought she was untouchable. She thought she could intimidate me into giving up. But what she didn't realize? She had just handed me the rope I needed to hang her. That night, Jensen called. I got the footage, he said, and you're going to love this. I sat up straighter. Tell me. The camera caught everything. Two guys, hired muscle by the looks of them. They pulled up in a black SUV, got out, and went straight for your room. But here's the best part. Jensen paused, and I could hear the grin in his voice. What? I demanded. One of them was stupid enough to take his mask off. I grinned. Do we have an ID? Oh, we have more than that, Jensen said. We have a name, a criminal record, and, get this, a direct connection to Karen. I let out a low laugh. Of course we do. Yeah, and with this, we can go after her hard. The next morning, I filed the police report. I walked into the station, cool and calm, dropped the evidence onto the officer's desk, and watched as his expression shifted from bored indifference to serious interest. This is solid, he admitted. We can bring the guy in for questioning. I leaned forward. And when you do, make sure he knows we have everything. The officer nodded. It was only a matter of time before Karen's hired thug cracked. And once he did, her entire scheme would come crashing down. Karen was spiraling. I saw it the next day when I drove past the house. She was standing on the porch, phone pressed to her ear, pacing frantically. Her perfect composure? Gone. Her smug confidence? Shattered. I pulled up to the curb and rolled down my window. Morning, Karen, I called. You look stressed. She whipped around, eyes wild. You did this. I smirked. Did what? You called the cops on me. I shrugged. I called the cops on the people who broke into my hotel room. If that somehow leads back to you, well, that sounds like a problem. Her face twisted. You don't know what you've started. Oh, I know exactly what I've started. I leaned on the steering wheel. The real question is, are you ready for how this ends? She didn't answer, because for the first time, she didn't have one. She just stood there, clutching her phone, her breath coming fast and uneven. And that's when I knew. Karen wasn't just panicking, she was losing. And the best part? There was nothing she could do to stop it. Karen was slipping. She could feel it. I could see it. The woman who had built an entire empire on deception and manipulation was finally losing control. And it was beautiful. The day after the police brought in her hired thug, I got a call from Jensen. They cracked him, he said, voice practically humming with satisfaction. Your little break-in artist spilled everything. I smirked. That didn't take long. Oh, he folded like a cheap chair. Turns out, when you've got a rap sheet as long as his, the last thing you want is another felony on your record. So the second they mentioned a plea deal, he started singing. I leaned back, savoring the moment. And Karen? She's in trouble, big trouble. Jensen let out a chuckle. Turns out, not only did she hire him, she paid in cash, left a text trail and, get this, was dumb enough to call him from her personal phone. I grinned. Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, and now the cops are putting together a case against her. For the first time since this nightmare started, I felt something close to relief. The walls were closing in, and Karen, she had nowhere to run. That afternoon, I decided to pay her a visit, just to watch her squirm. I pulled up to the house, my house, and found her standing outside, her phone clutched so tightly her knuckles had gone white. The second she saw me, she snapped. You think you've won? She screeched, marching toward me. You think this is over? I leaned against my car, cool as ever. I don't think so, Karen. I know. Her breathing was ragged, her hands shaking. This wasn't the confident, smug woman who had stolen my home, my life, my peace. This was someone drowning, and it was her own damn fault. You have no idea who you're messing with, she hissed. I tilted my head. No, Karen, you had no idea who you were messing with. Her jaw clenched so tight I thought her teeth might crack. You're going to regret this, she whispered. I smiled. We'll see. Then I walked away, leaving her standing there, broken and furious. Because at the end of the day, Karen's greatest weapon had always been her ability to control the narrative. But now, she had lost it. And soon, she was going to lose everything else too. Karen was cornered. And she knew it. For days, she had been trying to fight back, calling in favors, pulling whatever strings she had left. But none of it mattered, because the truth was out, and no amount of manipulation could stop the fall. It happened faster than I expected. One moment, she was barking threats at her lawyer in the driveway. The next, a black and white police cruiser pulled up to the curb. I watched from a distance as two officers stepped out. Karen's face went pale. She knew. They approached her, calm and professional, but their eyes were sharp. Karen Reynolds? One of them asked. She swallowed hard. What is this about? The officer pulled out a folded piece of paper. We have a warrant for your arrest. Everything stopped. The air, the sounds, the moment itself, frozen in time. Karen gasped. This is a mistake, she stammered. You can't. But they could, and they did. As soon as they turned her around and snapped the cuffs onto her wrists, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Relief. She twisted her head, eyes locking onto me as I stood by my car, watching. Her face contorted with rage. You think this is over? She spat. You think you've won? I smiled. Oh, Karen, it's already over. She screamed at me as they shoved her into the back of the cruiser. The woman who had stolen my life, my home, my peace, was finally where she belonged, defeated. With Karen gone, the rest fell apart quickly. Jensen moved fast, pushing the fraudulent deed through the courts. With the criminal charges against her, it didn't take much for a judge to void the transfer entirely. 2 weeks later, I stood at the front door of my house. I ran my fingers over the wood, taking a slow breath before turning the key. In that quiet, triumphant moment, I felt the heavy weight of my past lift, a reminder that my home, my life, was mine once again. It clicked, the door swung open, and just like that, I was home. The place was a mess. Karen had left her mark, furniture moved, cheap decorations, the lingering scent of her overpriced perfume. But none of that mattered. Because this house, it was mine again. And no one, not Karen, not the HOA, not anyone, was ever going to take it from me again. I stepped inside, closing the door behind me. For the first time in a long, long time, I could finally breathe. It was over. Karen was gone. And I had won. Karen thought she could take everything, my house, my life, my peace. But in the end, she lost it all. Arrested, exposed, and left with nothing, while I took back what was rightfully mine. Justice was served. And now, I'm finally free. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Let me know what you think below.